Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for coming. I won't be walking here. I'll be here most of the time, so feel free to enjoy the visual situation here. Hello, and welcome to my talk. Here, for the next 30 minutes, we'll be tackling with the question of even how a decolonial approach towards artificial intelligence could be helpful in overcoming homogenous technological narratives, with a focus on perspectives which come from the margins of post-Soviet spaces. I know it sounds complicated. This talk operates on the intersection of art and culture, research and activism, and it's going to be a quick run over 3 complex topics which I attempt to connect. Though, of course, each of these elements needs to be looked at separately in much more detail. So I'm sharing with you a currently ongoing research and insight into my process where, driven with the expanding post-Soviet discourse on decoloniality, I look at what potentials this new energy can give us in shifting the narratives around technology and technological futures, and how to use this energy of change as means of empowerment and self-empowerment and political participation. By daring to reimagine the systems and technologies of artificial intelligence by and for those on its material, conceptual, and political margins. But before we dive into these questions of what do I mean with homogenous technological narratives, what do I mean with the decolonial approach in AI, and what are the perspectives from the margins of post-Soviet spaces, and how these elements are related, let me shortly introduce myself and explain how I've arrived to a point of asking these questions in the first place. So, I am allapopp, a Berlin-based interdisciplinary digital media and performance artist, originally from Tatarstan in Russia. My work fuses digital art, sound, performance, research, and tech-inclusive envisioning with an activist agenda. Rooted in my mixed Tatar and Komi heritage and migrant experience, I formally work within the domains of digital and live performance and sound, machine learning, interactive live digital formats, and experiences in virtual, augmented, and mixed reality and the web. My work is directed towards fostering new world visions, looking for sources of inspiration and hope. My artistic and performance practice, and me and my body, as part of it, can look like this or like this. I perform with my physical body and voice on stage, but also like this, where my digital body and voice perform independently from me in various gaming applications, or like this in an interactive performance, gaming experience, and hybrid live show called Songs of Say Bourgeoisie. We've made, together with, among others, a musician, Alexander Zam, visual designer, Li Xingyan, and creative technologist, Gloria Schulz. It is a narrative music album available as an interactive visual gameplay of 60 minutes. In this game, I exist as a character called Hologram, a conjoined twin of Alexander Zam and myself, who come to a rehab to become part of a group therapy, among other technological, organic, and fantastic entities. If you want to play the game, I have a couple giveaway codes with me here today, so just come to me after the talk. But back to my digital bodies. In this project called This House of Monstrous Intelligentsia, we've done together with Jana Kuma, my body becomes an entity processed with machine learning, sometimes glitchy, so it loses human look, sometimes perfected to a norm. But it can also look like this. This image you might have seen as part of the offstage exhibition, which I, of course, recommend to check out more closely, between stage 2 and 3. It is one of my recent performances in XR. But today, I'm not going to talk about this project, but about a perspective that evolved from me looking at images I've just showed you. The images of my bodies, but also narratives and worlds I place these bodies in, and images of technologies and futures my bodies become surrounded by. I'm talking about technological narratives, aka stories, and images that surround our imagination when we talk about futures, utopias, dystopias. I'm specifically interested in the mainstream narratives around digital technologies and futures, because we've learned that such narratives have power to become reality. As American feminist science fiction author Ursula Le Guin says, modern science fiction is the mythology of modern technology. And I have a screenshot from Wikipedia for you of technologies predicted by science fiction. So we can see a space rocket and a submarine and photography, jet engine, Android. Also internet, computer virus, robotic prostheses. We all have this as part of our realities today. So looking at these numbers, I wonder, who gets to tell these stories? Such stories of these futures and their technologies. Rua Benjamin, an American sociologist and an author of such prominent books like Race After Technology and Imagining Manifesto, says, first, by recognizing that there are two popular stories we currently tell about technology, that tech is either going to save us or slay us, that it will take all of our jobs and make everything more efficient, or precipitate our undoing. Silicon Valley loves the utopian vision because they evoke it to sell gadgets. Hollywood loves the dystopian version because it helps sell tickets. Both are flawed. Edward James describes the reason for the dominance of dystopian science fiction narrative in his text on utopias and anti-utopias in the Cambridge Companion to Science Fiction as the ability of a writer to imagine a better place in which to live died in the course of the 20th century, extinguished by the horrors of total war, of genocide, and of totalitarianism. I wonder if we want to tell hopeful stories about the futures. I wonder if we want to tell the hopeful stories about our futures. Have we lost an ability to tell technological and utopian stories beyond the Silicon Valley narrative it roots in? So, in transhumanism, there exist these three super pillars, so-called superintelligence, super longevity, and super well-being. 96% of the world does not live in the United States, says Sarah Wachter, but a majority of us, of our digital tools and platforms, are based on US customs, political culture, and laws. This is something that I would call a worldview, meaning that the topic, the beliefs, the logic, the beliefs, and the ways of relating to the world are being encoded into technology, and thus into our imagination of technological futures. And this is what I mean with the homogenous technological narratives. You know, you go to the movies, you watch a dystopian science fiction story. We all know what it's going to look like, right? So it is either about evil cyborgs, their robots, and AI who are going to destroy the human race, or we're part of this commercial consumer techno-utopia in which we are trying to optimize our bodies and minds to become faster, more efficient, more healthy, which is actually can be afforded only by those who have access to resources acquired with colonial powers' extractivist approach towards material resources, but also human bodies. And I looked at my own production and wondered, what am I telling and what am I reproducing? And what kind of stories about the future can I imagine beyond these images? I decided to look at my heritage and culture, which I haven't been feeling comfortable sharing about while living back in Russia, but also while living here in Germany. In Russia, for best life experience, you were to pretend you're ethnically, but especially culturally Russian, rooted in Orthodox religion, having Russian as first and native language, even if you come from one of the many national republics populated by non-Slavic people, which constitute the majority of territory of Russia, and of which some of you probably have never heard of, like all the republics behind the Ural Mountains, but also before them. Now it gets very personal. I am half Tatar, half Komi. Tatars are Turkic people. The only Tatar national republic is called Tatarstan, which is located on the eastern edge of the western part of Russia. They call it melting pot of east and west. But my mom comes from an old believer village in Komi Republic in the north of the country. I spoke some Tatar when I was a child, but then intentionally forgot it because it was rendered very uncool, rural, stupid, not modern, not intelligent. When I moved to Germany, I even stopped sharing the fact that I come from Russia, enjoying the fact that some people sometimes think that I'm Scandinavian because I'm tall, and that I trained a lot not to have any Russian accent in my speech, in German, English, so I could have a local clean slate and be freed from being perceived through all the cliches about Russians. And then especially working in the technological field of arts. First, I really wanted to become part of this techno-utopia. I really like transhumanism and all its promises, until I realized that most probably I will never be included in the transhumanist utopia. Because most of us probably will never have enough money to pay for participation in that world. And although its goods are all being advertised to us and sold in small, cheap portions of convenience, like smartphones, the actual transhumanist utopia will be only available to those in power. So I decided to challenge myself to look for technological visions rooted in my own complex cultural heritage, shaped by experience of migration from the margins of post-Soviet spaces. And then I realized that there is not much to work with, because, for example, Tatars don't have a tradition of future fiction, and I wondered why. Inspired and guided with the feminist tech visions facilitated by AI research and Nushin Yazdani as part of the Super Lab, and the work of the Dreaming Beyond AI collective, whose amazing exhibition In the Loop, you can also find as part of Republica 24 in the Lokschuppen, next to the stage 10. And the work of the Berlin-based collective Digital Feminism, that, with its strong position in facilitating knowledge on technology and feminism in the German-speaking context. But of course, with the works of many other collectives and authors, which I won't be naming here, but if you're interested, I have a reading list to share after the talk. I decided to create a space about technological envisioning with people who share my lived experience. And I called it Decolonial Envisioning Research Sessions. So in March this year, I've gathered a small group of now Berlin-based artists, writers, technologists, dancers, and magic practitioners, dissidents, and cultural carriers of indigenous nations and small-numbered ethnicities with experience of life in and migration from post-Soviet spaces of, important, North and Central Asia and North Caucasus, Because often when we talk about post-Soviet spaces, we mean the European part of the post-Soviet space, and not the one that lies beyond the Ural Mountains. These research sessions were conceptualized in conversation with and by facilitators, decolonial language activist and Tatar poet as Dinara Rasuleva, and technologists, artists, and knowledge facilitators active in the field of decolonial AI discourse in Europe, Noam Yongrok-Song and Iyo Bisek, who I happen to know through the joint intersections in the Dreaming Beyond AI platform. They have designed the session specifically to fit the broader spectrum of this research in dialogue with one another, encompassing indigenous and migrant identity exploration, speculative fiction, technological embodiment through performance, and deconstruction of archiving practices as affirmative means of processing data and forms of manifestation. And we'll get there too. Actually, we'll see what it means. Couple reading recommendations again. So the goal of the sessions was, on one hand, to envision technologies rooted in our own cultures, because we all have different cultures. But then, altogether, constitute audio, text, and visual data sets, which then will be used by a multimodal generative AI tool of our own design, also conceptualized during the sessions, becoming a system for envisioning tech-inclusive futures. So here you can see some of the ideas sketched up in our exchange. That's actually what it looks like at the beginning, before it becomes technology. We called it slow computing. And now I will show you a personal example of how I worked with my vision. I started with looking at my family history, some of these photos I showed you, and then I was kind of like narrowing down into what actually matters to me in this self-descriptive imagery. And I came up with this idea of a cyberpie. I will not go deep into this, but I want to just show you how all this becomes a system. I baked this pie, by the way. I made it all by myself. My mom showed me how it works. So then, with the slow computing approach, we went into a system. Noam created a system, like a LARP system, when we all were playing type of an AI framework. And then, yeah, there are some images of how slow computing works, and that's what it becomes. And now I'm almost at the end of my presentation. And to the question, here I'm supposed to share about how I see what decolonial AI is, and how this tool can come, this is something that I want to develop, come to support the decolonial AI vision. But I won't do it due to the lack of time. Though I want to recommend you to read some things, which is the Decolonial AI Manifesto. Manifesto, important to note out, because it's not a manifesto, but it's written by many people, so it's a joint vision. And if you want to take a screenshot, I also made a little summary of what is written. But of course, I recommend to actually read it yourself. Then also another text that is worth of reading, which is Design Principles, Design Justice Principles. It's an entire movement where they advise on how to design better technology. So I would like to draw your attention to my last point here. Technological envisioning as means of political participation. Rua Benjamin says, "It matters whose imaginations get to materialize as our shared future." And I believe that by telling future stories and by including visions of future technologies infused with the decolonial perspective, one enables their presence in the future, thus enabling a political participation and co-creation of the world. In simple words, is that when we all start thinking about technologies and what they could be, and we start designing, sharing these ideas, then maybe our technology would also look different. And then through this, our world would look different. So for me, it operates within these domains: decolonial AI agenda, utopian future fiction, post-Soviet decolonial dialogue. But maybe for some of you, it will come from a different place. But I would very much like to encourage every person in this room to look at their own hidden and forgotten histories and needs and exit the matrix of technological optimization in a way that works for you, and share it with the world. And maybe one day, we will come to a future where technology is there to serve everyone, and not just some. Thank you.
Thanks to allapopp for this, very strong words in the end. Thank you for your very inspiring inspiration. I just can recommend go on your homepage, because there you can see much more of the work of allapopp, and keep in touch and learn some more. We still have 5 minutes left. Wonderful. So there's some room for questions. Anyone, anybody, or completely overwhelmed by what you just have seen here? That's fine as well, but just you got a question, right?
Yeah, I want to say for me, thank you very much for bringing this to this stage. I think it really shows for me the importance of art and imagination into the future. So I really appreciate this. And what would you say for now is your next vision? So like, what do you see in front of you for what is kind of on your mind currently to bring into this world?
Well, actually, there is a very particular vision. I think that I forgot to mention this, but I'm working, now that the vision was conceptualized in the sessions, now it gets to a point of technological implementation, of course, because this is something that I actually want to work, and there are ways to do it, and EU and I will be programming this. So yeah, there's more to see and to experience. Stay tuned.
We definitely will. So here's another question.
Thanks for your nice talk. Do you think co-creation with AI is possible?
Yes, of course. Why not? I think that, you cannot just change the world from now on. It's a long process. And I certainly do co-create with the AI tools, absolutely. I think what I'm interested in is that these AI tools are not the ones that are have this homogenous idea of the world. That's why I think that it's important that artists develop their own tools and work on their own data sets. For example, if this is kind of AI technology, we're interested in. But certainly, yes, and I think it's fun. But we should stop thinking about it as an intelligence, I think.
Nice one. All right. Anyone else? Yeah, there's a... Sorry, wait.
Okay, thank you. I'm just wondering, what are those beautiful objects that we see there all the time in your presentation?
It's a co-creation with AI. And so these were my experiments in trying to make one tool So in Tatar culture, we have tulip is a very common visual. So this on the left side, it is a Tatar kind of tulip. And these colors, I'm also wearing green because this is the color of Tatar culture, which is green and golden. So yeah. These are my visual manifestations for the future.
All right, then please allow me to ask the last question. As being a Berlin-based artist, what is your experience if you compare the decolonial approaches on the discourses we have right now with the discourses on post-Soviet history and decolonialization in this sphere?
Well, decolonial discourse within post-Soviet spaces, especially those in the North Asian parts of Russia, it's very young. So, but of course, there's an attempt, like there's authors like Madina Tlastanova, I don't have her in my presentation, wrote this book on the decolonial art on the margins of post-Soviet empire, I think it's called. So there is some knowledge, there is a big interest right now for this self-determination, for, to find our own ways of handling feminism and handling decolonial ways of relating to, the system of oppression that's been imposed on so many territories of post-Soviet territories. So yeah, but I've learned a tremendous amount of things from the Western decolonial thought, and I really tried to quote and present like where my knowledge is coming from. But right now, we really need to start developing our own, like even more.
Thank you very much.